Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Although her sheltered life meant she had little contact with the opposite sex, Soyo was well aware of her own charm. Even many of the young ladies at Tsukinamori couldn't resist her. Handling one Kamiju Mutsumi should be a piece of cake, right? As for Mutsumi Togo and Tamori, those 2 deceived girls would surely be grateful to her once they saw the scumbag's true face. This bad boy is in way too deep, you girls can't handle him. Let me handle it. Soyo, Mutsumi, even if you say that, I still think boys should be more honest. Being a player isn't a good look. With a plan in mind, Soyo naturally began to act. Wait, can you even type with a cutesy, high-pitched voice? What level of skill is this? The sudden change in Miss Soyo's attitude almost made Kamiju Mutsumi throw his phone. Even through the screen, he could practically see the girl's artificial sweetness. What is this? A sudden illness? The water droplet memes are one thing, but for a real sharp turn, you have to look to our Miss Soyo. He decided it must be due to her long-term vegetarian diet. Capitalist, Ms. Soyo, did you suddenly get a fever and fry your brain? Should I come pick you up and take you to the hospital? Soyo, drop dead. Soyo, who was still contemplating how to win over Kamiju Mutsumi, instantly darkened. As expected, she could never like this scumbag, not even as a pretense. But after her anger subsided, a calmer Soyo began to feel a little regretful. The plan hadn't even started, and she had already failed before the first battle. What was she supposed to do now? After thinking for a moment, Soyo suddenly remembered that a certain scumbag seemed to be quite interested in her mother. A bold idea suddenly formed in Soyo's mind. Should I let my mother make a small sacrifice? Let Mrs. Nagasaki suffer a little, and I'll bear the blame. However, she quickly crushed this bold idea in her mind. How could she even have such a thought? It was too ridiculous. It must be that innately evil Kamiju brat who had infected her. Seeing no further reply from Soyo, Kamiju Mutsumi didn't pay it any mind. The question was, what should he do next? Mutsumi Togo, Tamari, and the others were all at school, and he felt a bit bored on his own. But after some thought, Kamiju Mutsumi did remember something. Right, he hadn't bought Mutsumi Togo's guitar yet. The other day, she had been whisked away to his home right after school, so she naturally didn't bring anything with her. Last night, Neko had provided the music, but that was only because she had a habit of carrying her guitar with her. Although Mutsumi Togo had never found joy in playing in a band, and may not have even started practicing the guitar voluntarily, it was still a habit she had developed since childhood. At least for the past few days, Kamiju Mutsumi had occasionally seen the girl looking a bit lost. In any case, it was better to have one than not, and he had nothing better to do. And so, Kamiju Mutsumi, who was originally planning to go home, immediately prepared to tell the driver to turn around. Then, the car lurched violently, nearly throwing him from his seat. What happened? After a moment, Kamiju Mutsumi realized they had been rear-ended. And he was the one who got hit. It wasn't a major problem, but it stirred up some unpleasant memories. Was his luck bad today? Should he have just stayed home? Opening the car door, he saw the culprit of the incident, a beautiful woman with black hair in an office lady outfit. She stared at the deformed rear of the Maybach she had hit, the light completely gone from her eyes. She knew that a single tire on this thing was more expensive than her entire existence. Kamiju Mutsumi paid no attention to her reaction. However, when he saw a blonde girl in a Hanasakigawa school uniform getting out of the back seat, the expression on his face changed. Perhaps his luck today wasn't so bad after all. Unlike Kamiju Mutsumi, Ika felt her luck today was absolutely terrible. Yesterday, she had suddenly gotten news about Sakiko, but it was in an anime. It was just so bizarre. She had originally planned to ask her high-ec classmate, who might know something, but before she could even open her mouth, she was called out of school by her manager. That's how bosses are, she thought. The workers just have to listen and work overtime. The boss has a lot more to consider when exploiting workers. But that wasn't all. Her manager, driving too fast, had rear-ended a black luxury car. And the car owner's demand was, "Kamaju Matsumi, sing me Haruakaj. 3 times, you hear me, 3 times. Haruakaj?" In Hazawa Coffee, Ika looked at the young man before her, a surprised expression on her face. "Is that all? Did I just randomly hit a fan of MyGO or cry chick on the road?" Of course, it's not that simple. The hopeful expression on the manager's face turned to despair once again. "Miss Ika, have you ever considered working somewhere else?" Kamaju Matsumi had been wondering how to contact her, and now she had delivered herself to his doorstep. He naturally had to make good use of this opportunity. Voice acting? He decided to go all the way and just poach her. "Seriously, you're poaching her right in front of me?" However, hearing his words, the manager's face changed. "Seriously, you're poaching her right in front of me? Are you that arrogant? You too. I'll cover the breach of contract fees, and we'll call the rear-ending incident even." Ms. Manager instantly fell silent. Chapter 72 Title, Mana, Where's My Ika? In truth, the company hadn't treated her badly, but they hadn't been exceptionally good either. If possible, she didn't want to betray them. But she had no choice, his offer was just too generous. Eh? Mr. Kamaju's meaning. Is this a poaching attempt? Unlike the manager, who was directly bought out by Kamaju Matsumi, Ika was a little confused by the current development. "Wait, I just came out for some overtime, how did it turn into changing companies?" Seeing the somewhat bewildered Ika Misato, Kamaju Matsumi didn't answer, instead smiling and handing her a business card. "I am currently the president of Fun Entertainment. Our company is in need of an excellent singer like Miss Ika." Fun Entertainment? Although Ika usually just focused on singing, she wasn't completely clueless. She was generally aware of the situation in the industry but had never heard of any Fun Entertainment. "No, the name does sound a bit familiar, but I'm sure I haven't heard of this company. Although our company is currently just a startup and has no singers under its banner for now. After all, this company was opened for the band girls, so they wouldn't just hire anyone. Speaking of which, Tamori and the others seem to have only signed voice acting contracts, not band contracts. I should get them to sign those sometime. But these are minor issues, no need to worry too much." How can I not worry about it? Even the great Miss Ika couldn't escape the role of the straight man at this moment. A company with no singers under its banner, isn't that just a shell company? It looks super suspicious, okay? Ika. However, facing Ika's suspicion, before Kamaju Matsumi could say anything, the manager grabbed her hand, her eyes glistening with tears. "Please, for my sake, join Fun Entertainment. Do you know how much this thing I hit costs? It's about 300 million yen. For this one accident, I could sell my soul to Mars and still not be able to pay it back. And I don't want to sell my soul, I'm still young, I don't even have a boyfriend." But, although she was the one who rear-ended the black luxury car, as a passenger, she didn't actually have much responsibility. If possible, she didn't want her manager to have to resort to a life of crime, but changing jobs wasn't something that could be decided easily. Moreover, this Fun Entertainment looked very suspicious, which made her even more hesitant. After all, although she was considered Sakiko's childhood friend, her family wasn't as wealthy as teacher Sakiko's. She had relied on her own hard work to gain a foothold in a big city like Tokyo. If Fun Entertainment wasn't reliable, she would have to go back to her hometown. And if that happened, she wouldn't be able to get close to the Sakiko she longed for. "Ika-chan, why don't you take a look at this before you decide?" Kamaju Matsumi saw the girl's hesitation, directly took out his phone, found a photo, and handed it to her. "This is..." Ika originally frowned slightly at his overly familiar way of addressing her, but after seeing the image on the phone, her pupils constricted, and she threw all that to the back of her mind. Because the person in the picture was the Saki-chan she had been thinking about constantly. This was originally prepared for teacher Soyo, but he didn't expect to use it on Ika instead. "Sakiko." Ika had lost her composure at this point. "Why do you have her photo?" "That's not important. What's important is..." Kamaju Matsumi used his innate skill against the band girl. "You wouldn't want teacher Sakiko to be bullied, would you? It's a one-trick pony, but it works every time." And it had to be said, it was very effective. Although the expression on Ika's face turned a little ugly, she didn't directly refuse Kamaju Matsumi. The manager on the side watched this scene and couldn't help but swallow. Was she pushing Ika into a pit of fire? Maybe she should just go work in a brothel after all. She could have Ika give her some business then. Ahem, just kidding. Seeing the hostility value above the girl's head constantly increasing, to prevent himself from being suddenly beaten to a pulp with a guitar by the enraged girl, Kamaju Matsumi chose to retract his previous provocation. "Miss Sakiko is currently working at our company. Didn't you say you have no artists under your banner?" "Another company. Anyway, If Miss Ika comes to Bun Entertainment, you'll have plenty of opportunities to see Saki-chan in the future. Ika didn't answer for the moment, but her expression clearly showed she was tempted. And, while I won't bully Sakiko, I can't say the same for the other employees. Seeing this, Kamiju Matsumi continued to add fuel to the fire. Who? Miss Ika's eyes instantly sharpened. However, with Sakiko's gentle yet assertive personality, would she be bullied by her colleagues? It's hard to say, but when I arrived, even her shoes and stockings had been taken off. Kamiju Matsumi was speaking the truth. What? Something like that actually happened? How enviable. No, that's too outrageous. She also spread rumors that Sakiko was having inappropriate relationships with her colleagues. Don't say any more, I agree. Ika slammed the table, her eyes becoming determined. Protecting the best Sakiko in the world is Ika's undeniable duty. It could only be said that teacher Sakiko was truly a woman of many sins. Seeing that he had finally convinced Ika, Kamiju Matsumi also directly called Miyamori and asked her to coordinate their job change. However, after sending Ika and the manager off, Kamiju Matsumi always felt like he had forgotten something. What was it? After the two of them finished their job change with Miyamori's help, in a certain room at Ika's former company, the lively donut lady was now like a withered eggplant, looking somewhat listless. I've been waiting for so long, how come Ika isn't here yet? And the manager too. Just as she was about to take out her phone to contact the two, a woman in her 40s with a very serious expression walked in. Ms. Suzuki, what brings you here? The donut lady couldn't help but ask. Have Ika and the manager arrived? They won't be coming anymore. The woman called Suzuki shook her head. Eh? What happened? A very bad premonition arose in the girl's heart. They changed jobs. This premonition became a reality. Donut lady, eh? My Ika is suddenly gone? Time flashed back to after the group had separated. Kamiju Matsumi clearly had no sense of having poached a certain girl's partner. Although there was an unexpected incident along the way, his original goal had not changed. The car had been towed for repairs, but Kamiju Matsumi had no intention of calling another one. He remembered that there was a good instrument shop nearby, not too far away. He'd just consider it exercise. Chapter 73 Title, First Encounter with the Lady of Coming and Going. The only question was, which one to buy? Arriving at the instrument store, Kamiju Matsumi found himself suffering from choice paralysis as he looked at the dazzling array of guitars on the shelves. Maybe I should just ask Matsumi and see which one she likes. As he thought this and was about to take out his phone, a soft and clear voice sounded beside him. Excuse me, senpai, could you help me with something? Kamiju Matsumi turned around and saw a red-haired girl with a sunny and cheerful aura. Clearly a popular girl. At this moment, the girl had her hands clasped together, her beautiful green eyes showing a pleading expression. Paired with her delicate and cute face, it was a look few men could refuse. However, more than the pretty girl's appearance, what caught Kamiju Matsumi's attention was the lady of coming and going? To run into her just by coming out to buy a guitar, what a coincidence. Eh? Hearing Kamiju Matsumi's title for her, the red-haired girl, the lady of coming and going herself, first froze, then her face turned bright red. What kind of weird nickname is the lady of coming and going? She protested. You're so rude. Well then. The runaway guitarist? What's that one now? Why do I get a bad feeling about it? After her retort, the girl looked at Kamiju Matsumi with a wary expression. By the way, why are you acting so familiar with me? Do we know each other? You don't remember me? I'm your senpai from school, lady of coming and going. Faced with the girl's suspicion, Kamiju Matsumi stood there spouting nonsense with a straight face. I told you, it's not lady of coming and going. The girl corrected him first, then asked, really? She wasn't going to be so easily fooled. Then our school is Tsukinamori. He answered instantly. Even if you're going to guess, at least put some effort into it. Tsukinamori is an all-girls school. Hearing his answer, the girl was instantly covered in black lines. And it's a prestigious school that only young ladies can attend. Don't tell me you're a young lady. Can't a man be a young lady? Are you discriminating against men? It's because of narrow-minded people like you that the world can't have peace. He was back in his element. Wait, you. Like Anon, this popular girl was also stunned by this world-bending punch. However, her reaction was much faster. Senpai, is it fun to tease me? The girl puffed out her cheeks slightly, looking incredibly cute. How did you know? The girl's cheeks puffed out even more. Senpai, if your personality is too terrible, no girls will like you. Perhaps feeling that this could go on forever, the girl's expression returned to normal and she spoke directly. I'm sure senpai knows my name. Just call me Kita, not some lady of coming and going. It seemed she really held a grudge against that nickname. And you, senpai? Kamiju Matsumi. It had to be said, it was impressive that she could still talk to him calmly after all that. So, Kita-chan, what did you need my help with? Kita-chan. Senpai, you really get familiar fast, don't you? She retorted with a slight blush, before Kita, the lady of coming and going, finally got to the point. Well, I've recently become interested in playing the guitar and want to buy one to practice, but I don't know much about it. Could senpai recommend one for me? So it really is this scene, huh? Actually, for a beginner, any guitar is pretty much the same. How could he refuse such a request from such a cute junior? The main thing is not to buy the wrong thing. Basses and guitars look pretty similar. Senpai, you're underestimating me, aren't you? However, hearing his warning, Kita puffed out her cheeks again. No matter what, I wouldn't mistake a bass for a guitar. A bass has 4 strings, and a guitar has 6. Kita said, and then, as expected, she picked up a black 6-string bass identical to the one in the anime. It can only be you, Kita. Is this what they call fate? Basses can also have 6 strings. They're called multi-string basses. Kamiju Matsumi quietly added, looking at the somewhat smug Kita. Eh? Hearing this, Kita's expression instantly stiffened, and her cheeks turned bright red. This one, could it be? That's right, it's a 6-string bass. I want to die. Kita seemed to be possessed by bocce at this moment, her whole being turning gray. To be so confident in front of her senpai, only 2. Alright, take a look at this one. Looking at Kita's adorable state, even Kamiju Matsumi couldn't suppress the curve of his lips, picking out a blue guitar identical to the one in the anime from the side. This is a guitar? Anon would probably like this kind. Anon. Senpai, you watch MyGO too? So you watch MyGO too? As if a keyword had been triggered, Kita forgot all about the guitar in her hand, her eyes instantly sparkling. MyGO is so interesting, it's completely different from the band anime before. Perhaps having found a topic of interest, Kita began to talk non-stop. But the atmosphere of the band feels a bit heavy, which is a little unrealistic. But the characters are all very cute. I like Tamare the most, she's so cute like a little animal. What about you, senpai? Only children make choices. I want them all. Eh? Senpai, you're too greedy. Kita chatted excitedly with Kamiju Matsumi for a while, then suddenly realized. Sorry, it's my first time talking to someone about MyGO, I got a little excited. The girl scratched the back of her head and even stuck her tongue out playfully at him, looking incredibly cute. Since senpai thinks it's fine, I'll take this one. With that, Kita went straight to the checkout with the guitar. By the way, senpai, what did you come to the instrument store to buy? The popular girl struck up a conversation with Kamiju Matsumi. A guitar. Eh? Senpai, are you a guitarist? No, I can't play the guitar. I'm buying it for my fiancé. Eh? Fiancé? Kita looked as if she had been shocked. Is there a problem? It's just that fiancé and things like that feel like something you only see in novels and manga. Kita said what she was thinking. I didn't expect senpai to already have a fiancé. She must be a super cute girl, right? My Matsumi is super cute. Matsumi? Senpai, are you talking about Wakaba Matsumi? Kita-chan should know her, right? Kita? Could it be that senpai is one of those Chiyunabi otaku who likes to call anime characters his wife? She didn't have any prejudice against that, but she had heard that such otaku were usually unpopular in class and often lonely. Because they don't like real people, they like anime characters instead. Is that why senpai is so annoying when he talks? Kita's gaze towards Kamiju Matsumi unconsciously filled with a bit more care. Although she couldn't change anything, at least she wouldn't discriminate against him for it. Chapter 74 Title, Unevenly Matched Opponent. It's little Matsumi. She's indeed a super cute girl. Kita carefully chose her words to avoid hurting Kamiju Matsumi's feelings. The girl in front of me seems to have become a bit cautious. Is it just my imagination? At this moment, the shop assistant had finished ringing up her purchase. By the way, senpai, want to exchange line info? After taking the guitar, the girl suddenly took out her phone and said to him. Could this be Kita-chan's real purpose? Your pickup skills are terrifyingly proficient. Seeing Kita actively asking to exchange line info, Kamiju Matsumi, who had the same idea, turned the tables on her. Pickup? It's not like that. Hearing his words, the girl's cheeks, as expected, turned red with embarrassment. Senpai, you're a bit too narcissistic, aren't you? I'm just repaying a favor. That's right. To get a pretty girl's line just for a little help, senpai is the one who got a better deal. Oh no, she knows she's cute. Calling yourself a pretty girl, isn't Kita-chan the narcissistic one? Senpai has no right to say that. So, Senpai, are you exchanging or not? I am. Kita's line, get. Well then, Senpai, I'll be leaving now. After exchanging line info, Kita smiled and waved at him, then left with her guitar. Oh, right. But halfway there, the girl suddenly turned around. Senpai, that nickname lady of coming and going is super lame. You know, if you call me that again, I won't talk to you anymore. You mean Senpai? This time, Kita was really gone. Is it? He thought it was pretty cute. However, after buying a real guitar, Kita probably wouldn't be reenacting the classic runaway guitarist scene, right? Probably. Alright, since the interlude was over, it was time to complete the main quest. This time, Kamiju Matsumi didn't hesitate. So-called choice paralysis is all caused by insufficient funds. Therefore, I'll take one of each of these. Kamiju Matsumi picked several famous brands and bought one of each. A few guitars were nothing, no need to waste brain cells. They would be nice to have as a collection. Are these the ones, sir? The shop manager's expression instantly became eager. It seemed she had a big customer this time. That's right, have them all delivered here. After telling the manager to have the guitars delivered to the big house that originally belonged to Sakiko, Kamiju Matsumi didn't linger and left as well. However, the chance encounter with Kita had given him some other ideas. Speaking of which, he had been hanging out with the intense girls of Ben Dream these days, and he felt like he was becoming intense himself. It was time to interact with characters from other series. And Kamiju Matsumi had a hunch that his future anime creations would definitely include Bocchi the Rock. So, should he go to Starry in advance to scout out the voice actors? But today wasn't a weekend. Even if he went to Starry, he probably wouldn't see Najika and the others. Oh, right, it's not a weekend today. Why wasn't Kita at school? Never mind, a good kid like Kita definitely wouldn't skip school. There must be a reason he didn't know about. After thinking for a while, Kamiju Matsumi still decided to go to Starry. After all, he had nothing better to do. But now there was a problem. Where was Starry again? According to his memory, it was somewhere around Shimokitazawa. It shouldn't be hard to find, right? Kamiju Matsumi thought to himself. And so, a dozen minutes later, he took out his phone and decided to check a navigation app. But as soon as he opened the screen, a blue figure appeared in his line of sight. Seriously, is today that much of a coincidence? Or is there some special setting between you guys, where if one appears, the others will follow one after another? Kamiju Matsumi put away his phone, rubbed his temples, and walked to the girl's side. The girl was wearing a very masculine style of all-black top and pants, and her features were also very androgynous. Not a tomboy, but the type that appealed to both men and women. Coupled with the beauty mark under her eye, she looked both cool and charming, a neutral beauty who could easily get money from pretty girls with just her face. What attracted Kamiju Matsumi the most were her golden eyes, the same color as Matsumi Togo's. Yamada Ryo. This was the name of the girl Kita admired. And what was this beautiful girl doing at the moment? Pulling weeds in a patch of grass on the side. If described only by words, one might think she was doing some kind of community service. But if one saw her occasionally stuffing a whole handful of the pulled weeds into her mouth, one probably wouldn't have that thought. Seriously, you're really eating it? This is only enough for me. Sensing someone beside her, the girl said without turning her head. If you want to eat, go find another place. Objectively speaking, isn't his public land? And is this stuff really edible? Kamiju Matsumi knew a lot of things, but this touched upon a blind spot in his knowledge. Hearing this, the girl stopped what she was doing and stood up. It was only then that Kamiju Matsumi finally got a clear look at her face. She was very beautiful, and the type that was more likely to attract the same sex than the opposite. I am an expert in grass identification and can distinguish most edible grasses. Are you questioning my professionalism? So is this kind of strange knowledge even necessary to master? Try some? The girl took a smaller blade from the bunch of grass in her hand and handed it to him. Is this girl really that kind? However, Kamiju Matsumi didn't refuse. He was actually quite curious about what it tasted like. As for the result, it could only be said to be a rather strange experience. That'll be 1 million yen. Seeing him finish eating the grass, a triumphant smile appeared on the girl's face. Please pay up. Seemingly having sensed the rich guy aura on him, she directly asked for a huge sum. Well now, so this is where you were waiting for me? So expensive. Is your grass made of gold, or are the roots made of gold? I'm made of gold. You can bargain. The girl kindly reminded him. She didn't really intend to ask for that much. But since he had eaten her grass, did he think he could just walk away without paying? Then. 1 yen? Haggling like that? Are you trying to pick a fight? Oh wait, she was the one who started it? Then it's fine. How about I show you a magic trick, and we can call it even? Fine. It was the first time the girl had met someone who could keep up with or even break her rhythm. She wanted to see what kind of trick this young man had up his sleeve. Then first, give me the grass in your hand. Here. Hearing this, the girl hesitated for a moment, but still handed over her half-day's worth of food. Chapter 75 Title, Ryo, That'll Be Extra. Kamiju Matsumi took the bundle of grass, and then the girl was certain that she had only blinked, and the bundle of grass had disappeared. Where's my grass? Magic, as they say, is about making something appear from nothing, or making something that exists disappear. Kamiju Matsumi began to explain. So where's my grass? In my stomach. A smile identical to the girl's previous one appeared on Kamiju Matsumi's face. Ryo. Damn it, you ate my grass? The girl tilted her head up and met his gaze. A stand user of the same type as me. Their thoughts were surprisingly identical. You ate all my grass, pay up. This time, the girl really seemed afraid of him, grabbing his arm. She had already pulled up all the edible grass in the area. If he didn't pay up, she would really go hungry. No money. How about you eat me instead? The girl seemed to be seriously considering where to start. Giving you money is unlikely, but if you agree to one request, I can treat you to breakfast. At this point, Kamiju Matsumi finally revealed his true intentions. A request. Hearing this, Miss Ryo pulled back her hand, crossed her arms, and frowned. I know I'm cute, but don't even think about it, it's impossible. If it were an ordinary person, it would probably end here, but this was Ryo. However, the girl's tone suddenly changed. I have a super cute junior. If you treat me to breakfast, I can introduce her to you. Who could this junior of Ryo's be? It's so hard to guess, isn't it, Kita? What about Nijuka? Kamiju Matsumi asked with some curiosity. And Ryo seemed not to have expected to hear this name from his mouth, her eyes widening slightly. That'll be a different price. It can only be you, Ryo. I don't need you to introduce me, I can meet her myself. Just take me to Starry, Miss Ryo. Seeing her name come from his mouth, the expression on the girl's face finally changed. So you're a passionate secret admirer. Miss Ryo concluded. But that's not okay, it will only make girls hate you, unless you pay up. The girl held out her hand. So are you taking me or not? I am. This was her compensation. If she didn't eat, she would starve. And even without her, it wouldn't be hard for him to find Starry. In the end, Ryo, eating his crepe, took him to Starry. This normal food was indeed much tastier than grass. Perhaps because it was still early, there were no customers inside. Ryo. A certain blonde girl with a triangular, magnetically levitating ojo immediately noticed Ryo eating a crepe next to Kamiju Matsumi. What took you so long? Hey, who's this? After complaining, the girl noticed the young man next to her friend and showed a confused expression. Ryo actually came with someone else this time, and it's a boy she doesn't know? Hello, I'm Kamiju Matsumi, Nijuka Mama. Unlike the somewhat artificial Soyo, Nijuka, who clearly looked like a vibrant young girl, exuded a gentle, motherly aura in her every move. It can only be Nijuka Mama, not comparable to a fake mother figure like Soyo. The latter probably has a stronger fatherly vibe, at least for Matsumi Togo. Hello. Wait, what's with the Nijuka Mama? The girl was originally smiling and greeting him, but she quickly reacted, her cheeks turning bright red. Being called Mama by someone her own age was a first, even for Nijuka Mama. Because Nijuka Mama is Nijuka Mama. I can't explain this to you, because Nijuka Ijichi is a woman who could become my mother. Speaking of which. Indeed. Ryo, who had finished her crepe, was now stroking her chin and seriously examining her friend. Nijuka really is as gentle as a mother. Why are you like this too, Ryo? Betrayed by her own friend, Nijuka could only complain with a blush. Nijuka Mama, can you grant me one request? Kamiju Matsumi asked. A request? What is it? Miss Nijuka clearly hadn't realized the seriousness of the situation. I, Matsumi, have drifted through half my life, only lamenting that I have yet to meet a worthy mother. A melodious BGM seemed to sound within Starry. Pa-san, who had been dozing off, immediately stood up. Who turned on the stereo. If you, Natsu, would not abandon me, I, Matsumi, would be willing to take you as my adoptive mother. As he spoke, Kamiju Matsumi took Nijuka's hand, knelt on one knee, and then took out a diamond ring. Wait, who proposes to be an adoptive mother with a diamond ring? Anyone who didn't know better would think it was a marriage proposal. No, this looks exactly like a marriage proposal, okay? The innocent girl had never seen such a scene before, her cheeks instantly turning bright red. She looked at her friend with a helpless expression, seeking help. You brought him here, you deal with him. And Ryo did indeed help her out, but not in the way she had hoped. Young man. Ryo directly grabbed the hand holding the diamond ring, her eyes seemingly turning into money signs. Do you need another adoptive mother? What do you think of me? She naturally knew that diamonds were just a marketing gimmick, but the diamond ring in his hand was different. It was pure silver and studded with a bunch of gems, clearly worth a lot of money. Don't get into weird relationships with people just for money. Nodoka naturally saw through her friend's thoughts and couldn't help but retort. It has to be Nodoka mama. And Kamiju Matsumi's response was firm. Even if you say that, it won't make me happy. It has to be Nodoka? Hearing this, a conflicted expression appeared on Ryo's face. After thinking for a while, she finally made a decision. Nodoka is my bandmate, my dear friend. So? That'll be extra. Ryo looked at him and said with a serious face. I'm still here. Miss Ryo's actions naturally drew her friend's displeasure. Don't make these weird deals in front of the person in question. In the end, Kamiju Matsumi and Ryo were naturally and rightfully disciplined by Nodoka mama, so. Looking at Ryo and Kamiju Matsumi sitting obediently side by side on the chairs, Nodoka couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. This. Mr. Kamiju, could he be your younger brother, Ryo? That scummy vibe was a perfect match for her friends. Why a younger brother, can't it be an older brother? Kamiju Matsumi wanted to object, but a single glance from Nodoka mama immediately made him behave. Chapter 76 Title, Ryo's Curiosity. Why do you think so? Ryo also questioned Nodoka's idea. Why do you think I think so? Nodoka didn't answer, just giving her a look and letting her figure it out for herself. Oh, so that's how it is. Ryo clearly got the message. Rest assured, this guy is as trustworthy as I am. It's precisely because he's like you that I can't rest assured. Even Nodoka mama was on the verge of a breakdown at this point. One Ryo was already enough for her to handle. If there was another one. 2 Ryos? What kind of terrible dream am I having? Nodoka. Kamiju Matsumi seemed to want to say something, but was interrupted as soon as he opened his mouth. Don't call me mama. Nodoka stood with her hands on her hips, full of authority like a real mother. What mama? Just then, a woman with a striking resemblance to Nodoka walked in. Though she could be called a mature woman, she gave off a feeling that was somewhere between a mature woman and a young girl. Sister. Nodoka's address revealed her identity. Ryo, you're here. And this kid is Nodoka's sister, Ijichi Sayaka, first greeted Ryo, then her gaze focused on Kamiju Matsumi. A boy? A siscon's instinct made Sayaka subconsciously wary. This is Kamiju-kun, a friend of Ryo's. Although she was still angry about their performance just now, Nodoka still gently introduced him to her sister. I picked him up on the road today. Ryo quickly distanced herself. And her words naturally drew a subtle gaze from her friend. Wait, you can just pick people up like that? He's a very interesting young man. Pa-san, who had been watching the whole time, said with a smile, propping her chin on her arm. And he's a suitor of Nodoka's, a very bold one at that. In Pa-san's eyes, his previous actions were just a young boy's way of expressing his affection for a girl he likes. After all, no one would really treat a girl their own age as their mother, right? Huh, Nodoka's suitor? Hearing this, the expression on Sayaka's face immediately turned menacing. Kamiju Matsumi could understand her. After all, if he had a cute sister like Nodoka, his reaction would probably be even more exaggerated. That's not it, I just. Don't say it. Just as he was about to clear his name, he was stopped by a blushing Nodoka who had already guessed what he was going to say. However, Nodoka's shy appearance created a misunderstanding in Sayaka's mind, causing her heart to skip a beat. This reaction. Could Nodoka really have feelings for this brat? Actually, Pa-san is also my type. Since things weren't working out with Nodoka, Kamiju Matsumi naturally turned his attention to Pa-san, who had started the topic. Little brother, you won't even let an old woman like me go? A mature woman like Pa-san naturally wouldn't get easily shy like a young girl. But you can't joke with women my age. If you're not careful, you might get eaten up. Is there such a good thing? Kamiju Matsumi did a tactical lean back. It had to be said, adults were different. What, little brother, do you want to give it a try? Pa-san showed a half-smiling expression. Stop, 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 stop. Seeing the atmosphere about to take an unspeakable turn, Nodoka, blushing furiously, stepped in between them and stopped their exchange. What are you guys talking about in front of so many people? Alright, stop fooling around. Nodoka composed herself, the blush fading from her face, and declared that the fun was over. It's time to get to work, we have guests coming later. You there, kid? Sayaka, probably believing what Pa-san had said before, very naturally assigned him a task. The storage room is yours. Go move the things inside. Sister, you're being a bit too bossy, aren't you? Nodoka frowned slightly. To her, he was still a guest. Sorry, Siakane, I'm afraid I can't. And Kamiju Matsumi also refused her task. Who's your Siakane? Siaka couldn't help but frown. And you want to pursue my Nodoka with this attitude? As for the reason. At this time, Kamiju Matsumi also explained his refusal. I was in a car accident before. He directly made a French military salute to show his current physical condition. It wasn't something to be ashamed of, so there was no reason not to talk about it. So while I'd like to help subjectively, I probably can't do much objectively. After hearing his explanation, Starry fell silent. A hint of self-reproach appeared in Siaka's eyes as she looked at him. I'm sorry. Nodoka apologized. My sister didn't know about your situation, Kamiju-kun. So you were the one who hit me? However, facing Nodoka's apology, Kamiju Matsumi showed a surprised expression. How could that possibly have anything to do with me? Nodoka was completely caught off guard by his reaction, looking somewhat flustered. Then why are you apologizing? Don't joke about things like that. Nodoka looked a bit helpless. But after his little act, the atmosphere in the room wasn't so heavy anymore. Although he couldn't move heavy things, Kamiju Matsumi still said he could help. After all, everyone was busy. He couldn't just stand by and watch, that would make him a real guest. But with his body shaking like he had Parkinson's just from pouring a cup of coffee, he could only end up as a signboard, greeting guests and handing out flyers. It had to be said, the effect was quite good. After all, most of the people who came to Starry were young women, and they naturally couldn't resist a handsome young man like him. With him standing there for a day, Starry's business actually improved quite a bit. You brat, this is your pay for today. Even friends who help out get paid. Siaka was surprisingly fair in this regard. Kamiju-kun, you worked hard. Here's some juice. After working together for a day, his relationship with Nodoka had also improved a lot. They could at least be considered acquaintances. And after a day of building up goodwill, Kamiju Matsumi finally stated his purpose. No, Kamiju-kun, don't say those weird things anymore. However, Nodoka seemed to have misunderstood something and quickly said so. Then, after he stated his real purpose, the embarrassed Nodoka, realizing her mistake, instantly blushed. Bun Animation, Incorporated? Ryo, however, took the business card with some curiosity. In other words, you want us to be your voice actors? Chapter 77 Title, Project Unspecified, Schedule Undecided, Script Non-Existent. Do we get paid? Miss Ryo asked her most important question. Of course. He wasn't so broke that he couldn't afford to pay salaries. How much? The highest standard in the industry. Kamiju Matsumi gave a thumbs up and said to the girl with a smile. I'm in. Ryo directly grabbed his hand, looking at him as if he were her provider. Don't just join some weird company for money. Her friend's money-grubbing appearance left Nodoka speechless. Ah, sorry. But the gentle Nodoka mama quickly realized her words were inappropriate and looked at him apologetically. I'm not doubting you, Kamiju-kun, it's just. I understand. He naturally wouldn't get angry over such a small thing. If I were suddenly invited like this, I definitely wouldn't trust it at first either. Kid, you've said so much. Compared to Nodoka mama, Siaka was much more direct. Is this Bun Animation of yours reliable? What representative works do you have? Does MyGO count? If he had approached them first, he really wouldn't have been able to answer this question. But with the success of MyGO, it would only become easier for him to recruit people. Ahem, to find people to do voice acting for him. MyGO? The girls were all shocked. Any band member would have a hard time not having seen this recently famous music anime. So MyGO was actually produced by your company, Kamiju-kun? Even Nodoka couldn't help but show some excitement at this point. Although it's a bit unrealistic, it's really different from the band anime before. Ryo and I both really like it. That Soyo in it looks like she'd be easy to get money from. Ahem, I mean, she looks like she'd be a good friend. Miss Ryo stated her opinion with a straight face, still full of her usual scummy vibe. Ryo, even if it's just an anime character, that's still too rude. Nodoka chided her friend as usual. We understand what you're saying, Kamiju-kun. After the light-hearted atmosphere ended, Nodoka stated her thoughts. But, why us? After all, playing in a band and being a voice actor were two completely different things. Not to mention she played the drums and Ryo played the bass, which were even further apart. Since your company can produce such an excellent work as MyGO, it should be easy to find better voice actors, right? There was no need to find amateurs like them. There are no better ones. No matter how excellent a voice actor is, how can they compare to playing yourself? The real people are right here, wouldn't it be putting the cart before the horse to look for someone else? Whether for profit or personal feelings, this was a very bad idea. It has to be you guys. Eh? It had to be said that similar words, said in different situations, gave a completely different feeling. Before, Nodoka could only feel helpless, but now she was blushing slightly. Nodoka is being swept off her feet by a player's sweet talk. Ryo on the side retorted, watching her friend's reaction. She couldn't let him win Nodoka over directly, otherwise how would she, the middleman, make a profit? Nodoka? Having a friend like you is truly a blessing. Who's being swept off their feet? Don't talk nonsense, Ryo. Nodoka was originally just a little shy, but after Ryo's comment, she couldn't control her heartbeat. Ahem, stop fooling around, let's get serious. Sayaka, who had been watching the whole time, looked a bit displeased. Seriously, hitting on her sister right in front of her? Does he think she doesn't exist? Then, the specific anime you want us to voice act for is. Hearing her sister words, Nodoka also composed herself and let her friend off the hook. About that. Hearing Nodoka's question, Kamiju Matsumi thought for a moment, then said with a smile, project unspecified, schedule undecided, script non-existent. After all, the script had to be bought from the system, and the system wouldn't recognize one he wrote himself. But if he really couldn't get the Bocce the Rock script in the end, it wouldn't be too much of a problem for him to write one himself. After all, even without the system's reward, Bocce the Rock was an excellent anime worth creating. Isn't that just nothing? Even with Nodoka's personality, she was on the verge of snapping at this point. So why on earth are you able to smile so confidently? What an interesting project. However, Ryo seemed to be moved, grabbing his hand. I'm in. Don't just join everything. Nodoka was really tired at this point. You brat, are you messing with us? Sayaka's attitude was much more direct. Although those things aren't ready yet, the production of the anime has been confirmed. Although it was a personal decision he made today, it didn't make much difference. I believe you will all like it later. You should at least wait until those things are confirmed before coming to us. Nodoka sighed softly, looking somewhat helpless. So as long as I get the project off the ground, Nodoka will agree? Well. This time it was Nodoka's turn to be stumped. However, Kamiju Matsumi didn't expect her to answer right now. After all, unlike last time, it was still a long time before MyGO finished airing, let alone the non-existent Bocce the Rock. That didn't even have a new folder created for it. He was just preparing them mentally. Anyway, once he had built up enough goodwill later, this kind of thing would be a piece of cake. Well then, that's all for today. Kamiju Matsumi said as he stood up to leave. Since there's nothing else, I'll be going now. See you later. The Starry incident was just an accident. He had other things to do today. And the somewhat unresponsive Nodoka subconsciously reached out to stop him, but could only see the young man's back. Kamiju-kun, a strange person. A strange person like her friend Ryo, but not a bad person. Nodoka Mama made this judgment about the young man she had spent the day with. And after leaving Starry, Kamiju Matsumi didn't continue to exercise, but called a car to go to Ring. His target for today, Hukamanami, was there. After all, after the third episode aired, it was time for Teacher Ami's debut, so he naturally had to find the voice actor first. Originally, Ecchi should have been there too, but he didn't expect her to deliver herself to his doorstep. As for why she would be waiting for him at Ring, it was naturally because he had asked Miss Ricky for a favor. Chapter 78 title, actually, it's Ricky's turn. Ricky might seem hard to talk to, but she was just very direct, which made her surprisingly easy to ask favors of. Walking into the Ring lobby, Ricky's social skills probably hadn't reached the level where she would abandon her friends to practice alone, so everyone was there. Neko was currently clinging to Ricky's side, trying to give her a piece of candy. Ricky, naturally, didn't deliberately misunderstand like Kamiju Matsumi would have, and accurately tossed the candy into Neko's mouth. Well, not so accurately. Because the candy was intercepted midair by Kamiju Matsumi, who tossed it into his own mouth. Match a flavor again. Does this Neko really like this flavor so much? Seriously, you'd even snatch candy from a stray cat? Are you even human? Seeing his action, Ricky's eyes widened. She thought she already had a good grasp of how bizarre this guy was, but he always managed to surprise her with something new. Damn it, you stole my candy again? Neko, who had been waiting for her treat, immediately understood what had happened when she saw the scumbag. She puffed out her cheeks and pounced on him. Since you ate my candy, you have to compensate me with a parfait. After petting the cat for a while, Kamiju Matsumi pacified her with a matcha parfait. Only then did he turn his attention to his target for the day, Hukamanami. In the colorful-haired world of Bang Dream, Teacher Ami's simple black hair actually seemed rather special. Her shoulder-length hair was worn down, a rare style, and someone as unfamiliar with it as he was couldn't name the specific cut. Perhaps because she came straight to Ring after school, she was still wearing her Hanasakigawa school uniform, which created a strange contrast with her mature and cool demeanor. "You're the one who was looking for me?" While he was sizing up Ami, she was also observing him. However, compared to his admiration, her gaze could even be described as scrutinizing. After all, this is the first time Ricky has asked me for a favor because of a boy. Ami, don't say things that could be misunderstood. Ricky, standing nearby, couldn't help but frown at her friend's words. It made it sound as if she had some special feelings for him. "Don't look at me like that. There's no need to be so serious on our first meeting, right?" Facing Ami's stare, he first tried to ease the atmosphere, then handed her a carton of juice, trying to buy her over. Of course, it wasn't just for Ami, everyone got one. However, when Soyo took her drink, her expression was hesitant and complex. "You seem to know me well." Ami took the drink he offered without any coyness, immediately poking a straw in and starting to drink. It was just a common 100-yen box drink, but she didn't think he was being cheap. Instead, she was surprised. It was the exact flavor she usually drank. This friend of Ricky's is definitely not ordinary. I just know what I need to know. Translation: I learned it from watching MyGO. In response to this, Ami showed a non-committal expression. "So, what do you want from me?" She didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. "You know about the anime Ricky and the others are filming, right? You want me to join too?" Ami guessed his intention after only a moment's thought. "But why should I agree? I don't lack money, and I'm not interested in voice acting or anything like that." As she spoke, she stared at him without blinking, as if trying to gauge his reaction. "Ami, you wouldn't want Ricky to get hurt, would you?" He thought, but decided against it. He had used that line too many times, including just today. "Miss Ami, if you refuse." Facing her rejection, Kamiju Matsumi smiled instead. "Then I'll just have to toy with Ricky mercilessly and then heartlessly abandon her." So in the end, it was just a different way of saying the same thing. Does he just threaten people as soon as they refuse? Is this how you recruit employees? Isn't that a bit too malicious? Anon couldn't help but complain internally upon hearing his words. What nonsense is this guy spouting? As the person in question, Ricky naturally frowned. Why is he threatening Ami by talking about her? And he wants to toy with her? Is he still dreaming? Is he not afraid of her fists? If Tamari wasn't holding her back, she would have taught him a lesson long ago. Ricky? However, hearing his words, Ami showed a hesitant look. Her gaze swept over the other four distinctive girls of MyGO, then back to him, with an expression that said, "Are you sure you said that right?" Although she knew her friend's gentle nature, aside from her pretty face, she wasn't exactly the type to attract the opposite sex, especially when compared to the other four girls in MyGO. The attack wasn't severe, but the insult was extremely strong, specifically aimed at Ricky. Ami. Ricky never thought she'd be the one getting triggered by her own friend. Was she that bad? But Ricky also knew that with her direct way of speaking and not so gentle personality, her appeal to the opposite sex was indeed no match for the other four girls in the band. But what was there to care about? Was she living just to please others? Please don't say that. However, to Ricky's surprise, Kamiju Matsumi actually spoke up to refute her. Although Ricky is direct, not gentle, and a bit rough in her actions, and doesn't even seem like a girl sometimes. Are you really asking for a beating? Ricky, with a dark face, clenched her fist. Some things, even if you know them yourself, are a completely different matter when said aloud by others. But those are just appearances. However, before she could make a move, he changed the subject. Being direct means Ricky won't lie. That's a huge plus for a girl. She only seems rough, Ricky's nature is actually very gentle. But only those she acknowledges can enjoy that gentleness. She can be very considerate, caring, and she can also struggle and feel sad about certain things. Sheena Ricky is just that kind of cute girl. If you were to date her, she would surely love you and protect you with all her heart. Although it's not obvious on the surface, Ricky is the type that could make anyone's heart flutter. Shut up. Before he could even finish, a blushing Ricky covered his mouth. Don't talk nonsense in front of Ami. Ricky looked at Ami, trying her best to put on a fierce expression, but paired with her crimson face, it only made her look cute. Don't think I'll develop a good impression of you just because you said that. Behave yourself. Chapter 79 Title, Boss Kamiju Keeps His Word. What is this idiot rambling on about? Ricky felt her face must be terrifyingly red, and her heart was beating uncontrollably. Under Kamiju Matsumi's surprise attack, even she found it hard to withstand the sudden, direct assault. Anon, watching from the side, squinted. Why do his words sound so familiar? As expected of this player, even someone like Ricky can be flustered like this. Terrifying. The girl silently complained, suppressing an inexplicable annoyance in her heart. Ricky. Ami sighed, watching the scene unfold, her gaze deepening. TSK, did I just assist this guy? Did you call me here just to watch you two flirt? Who's flirting? Ricky finally noticed their ambiguous posture and snatched her hand back as if she'd been electrocuted. And you? She crossed her arms, trying to appear calm, but she couldn't hide the blush on her face. Stop saying things that cause misunderstandings, or I'll hit you. But, just like before, it held no threat. So, Miss Ami, your answer. Finally unsealed, Kamiju Matsumi looked at Teacher Ami and continued to ask. It seems if I don't want Ricky to be bullied by you, I have no choice but to agree. Now that she had probed for most of the information, Ami didn't continue to refuse. Who would be bullied by this guy? Ricky, however, was very dissatisfied with Ami's words. Why was it a given that she would be pursued and bullied by him? Her, liking Kamiju Matsumi? Impossible. If she ever fell for him, she beat the stray cat. Neko. Ami didn't reply, just thinking to herself that her friend really had no self-awareness. Although from her perspective, the current Ricky indeed had no romantic feelings for him. But he was the only male around her right now. Who could say what would happen later? Moreover, from her observation, he and Ricky were not on the same level at all. Without her, her friend would definitely be completely wrapped around this man's finger. But, do you really like Ricky? After all, to be able to list so many of her friend's good qualities in one breath was something even she couldn't do unprepared. To know her so deeply, she didn't believe he had no feelings for Ricky at all. Ami. Ricky, who had just barely calmed down, blushed again. Why did Ami think there was something going on between them? Before today, she had never imagined she would have such an ambiguous connection with that scumbag. From her perspective, he only ever bullied Tamari and made her angry. I like Ricky. However, Kamiju Matsumi's reply was unexpected by everyone. Ricky's mind went blank for a moment. This scumbag likes her? How is that possible? And everyone else. Can't you speak without taking such a dramatic pause? The girl's gazes all turned a bit resentful. Ricky, again, felt the urge to hit someone. I have a gig with another band later. Seeing her question easily deflected by him, Ami didn't feel the need to probe further. In fact, she didn't mind him being with Ricky, provided he could make her happy. So, before that, she would observe him closely. She would be watching him. I'll be taking my leave. Contact me if you need anything. As expected of Teacher Ami, efficient and carefree. With that, the only remaining voice actor for MyGO was Miyamu. After Ami left, the taskmaster Ricky naturally chose to lead everyone in practice, but even Anon had no objections. There was nothing left for Kamiju Matsumi to do, so he returned to the large house. By the time he got home, Matsumi Togo had already prepared dinner. Matsumi, what are these? However, the little cucumber seemed a bit puzzled by the pile of cardboard boxes in the house. These are the guitars I bought today. He opened the boxes, revealing the guitars inside. Matsumi Togo was even more confused by his answer. Why would he buy guitars for no reason? And so many of them. Isn't your guitar at your old house, Matsumi? Facing her question, he answered truthfully. I saw you seemed a bit out of sorts, so I thought I'd buy you a guitar. I didn't know which kind you liked, so I just bought them all. For me? Matsumi Togo caressed the guitar, her eyes looking a bit dazed. He even noticed that? Speaking of which, she hadn't thought about her old home for a long time. There, she only felt emptiness and depression. Her father, when he was occasionally home, would only put pressure on her. And while Kamiju Matsumi seemed scummy on the surface, she could feel a sense of security with him that she didn't even have with Soyo and Sakiko. She didn't have to be careful, nor would she be hurt from both sides. Having him as a fiancé was indeed her good fortune. Recalling everything that had happened recently, the girl felt as if a lifetime had passed. Of course, just because I bought them doesn't mean you have to play. They'd be nice as a collection at home too. Kamiju Matsumi, misunderstanding her thoughts upon seeing her reaction, said casually. No. Hearing him, Matsumi Togo lifted her head, her eyes firm. I love Matsumi's gift. Due to her childhood experiences, while she didn't hate the guitar, she couldn't quite feel love for it either. That's why she had said what she did when Sakiko quit the band. But at this moment, her feelings were different. Because this was a gift from him to her. I want Matsumi to hear my voice. She wanted to play for him. With that, Matsumi Togo picked up a pink 7-string bass guitar from the collection. Matsumi, what do you want to hear? Haruokage. He answered instantly. Matsumi, you're mean. Matsumi Togo puffed her cheeks slightly, though she didn't seem surprised. Then, in the villa that no longer belonged to teacher Sakiko, Matsumi Togo began to play the haruokage that no longer belonged to her. The distance between them quietly closed amidst the sound of the guitar she played. After successfully recruiting Ika and Ami, Kamiju Matsumi didn't rush to find the remaining Miyamu. For the next few days, He spent his days at Starry building goodwill, and his afternoons practicing with Tamari and the others. Chapter 80 title, I Don't Eat Donuts. However, Kamiju Matsumi didn't run into Najeka and Ryo at Starry again. After all, they were students and had to go to school. The last time must have been a special case. After Miyamori and her team finished producing this week's animation, it was time for the girls' voice acting session again. Since it wasn't the weekend, they had to wait until after school. But when Kamiju Matsumi arrived at Fun Animation, he found a girl already waiting there. She was wearing a black and white long dress, and her appearance seemed a bit older than the MyGO members, but her demeanor was lively and simple. Especially the way she sat there sneakily eating a donut, it added a bit of cuteness. This was Miss Donut. At this moment, Kamiju Matsumi finally pulled the memory of this girl from his brain. When he had poached Ika before, he seemed to have forgotten about her. In the end, it was a reminder from a certain manager and Ika's request that led to him poaching her as well, 2 days later. What, Miss Donut? The sudden voice startled the girl so much she almost choked. She turned her head to look at the young man beside her, a look of dissatisfaction on her face. Don't just give people weird nicknames because you see them eating a donut. I actually think Miss Donut sounds pretty cute. What's cute about it? Please call me Miss Mana. Okay, Mana-chan. That's a bit too familiar. Miss Donut's cheeks turned slightly red. By the way, are you my colleague? Perhaps because she was bored sitting alone, Miss Mana started chatting with him. I suppose so. Then you're really unlucky. Hearing this, Miss Donut sighed softly. How so? Kamiju Matsumi's interest was piqued. Are you new? Seeing his interest, Mana perked up. The boss in this company is not a good person, he's... Miss Donut seemed to be thinking of the right words, but her good upbringing prevented her from saying anything too aggressive. The baddest of the bad guys. Honey, when you curse, it sounds like you're pouting. The baddest of the bad guys? Hearing her words, he couldn't help but laugh. You have a big grudge against him? Of course. Mana seemed a bit agitated, but quickly controlled her emotions. You should know Sumami, right? Of course. Before, Ika and I formed Sumami together, we sang together, it was so much fun. If it weren't for that big bad guy who poached Ika, how would I have been separated from her? But shouldn't that be Ika's personal choice? He challenged her statement. And aren't you working here now too? Why didn't he just poach me along with Ika? Do you know how miserable I've been these past 2 days? Hearing his words, the girl became even more agitated. If it weren't for that big bad guy, none of this would have happened. Her Ika, suddenly gone. Who knew how confused and sad she was at that time? Do you know how much damage Ika's sudden departure caused Miss Donut? I curse him, a bad person like him will definitely not be liked by any girls. After speaking, she seemed a bit tired and took a bite of the donut in her hand. After finishing, she suddenly noticed his empty hands. Hey, do you want a donut too? The generous Miss Donut offered. Get some energy before work. There are cat donuts and chocolate donuts, which one do you want? Mana, you're here so early. Just then, a certain blonde girl with a great face walked in. Ika. Seeing her, Miss Donut temporarily put down her small box of donuts and waved happily at her partner. That's Ika. Miss Mana's resentment was clearly not small, as she didn't forget to say to him at this moment. She was poached here by that big bad guy back then. Mana kept talking, but soon the expression on her face froze. Boss. Ika walked to their side and greeted Kamiju Matsumi. Eh? Boss? Who's the boss? Miss Donut looked around and found that besides herself and Ika, there was only him. Then, under Miss Donut's lifeless gaze, Kamiju Matsumi smiled and nodded at Ika. It really was him. The light completely died in the girl's eyes. Mana, you and the boss are. After greeting him, Ika also expressed her question about the two of them sitting together. Mana-chan and I were having a very pleasant chat. Kamiju Matsumi placed a hand on Miss Donut's shoulder and said with a smile. Weren't we, Mana-chan? Miss Donut forced a smile and nodded. Then I won't disturb you. Ika hesitated for a moment, seemingly not suspicious. I'll go look at the script first. Ika, don't go. Mana reached out to stop her, but could only watch as her back slowly disappeared from sight. In the end, she was left alone to face him. Do I look like a very bad person? Looking at Miss Donut, he asked with a smile. Miss Mana trembled, not daring to speak. You cursed me so much, will I really not be liked by any girls? Seeing the girl not answering, he didn't mind. How about you compensate me with a girlfriend? Why did you do that? The girl finally spoke. What? Ika and I were doing fine in Sumami, why did you have to poach her? This was probably Miss Donut's biggest grudge. Because she's cute, of course. I poached her to get close to her. He replied to her question. There are so many cute girls, Do you want to get close to all of them? Miss Mana seemed dissatisfied with this answer. When I first joined the band, Tamori told me. He didn't answer directly, but said with a smile. I can get close to whoever I want, because we're going to be in a band for a lifetime. Wait, what does that have to do with being in a band? Does getting close to everyone mean you can be in a band for a lifetime? Miss Donut couldn't help but complain internally. How about we play a game? He said. Guess whether I like cat donuts or chocolate donuts. Chapter 81 title, The Donuts Misunderstanding. If you guess correctly, I'll pretend nothing happened. Kamiju Matsumi stated the rules of the game. If you guess wrong, I'll fire you and replace you with teacher Sakiko as Ika's partner. In a sense, this was also respecting history. How could you do this? Hearing his words, Miss Donut instantly turned into a crying cat face. Being separated from Ika. I don't want that. At least not for another 10 years. See cat. Cat donuts, however, now she was at his mercy. Facing her boss who could fire her at any moment, the girl could only choose to abide by his rules. However, to Miss Donut's despair, he gave a negative reply to her guess. Guess again? Chocolate donuts. Kamiju Matsumi looked at the girl whose eyes had lost their light and smiled. I don't eat donuts. Alright, boss, stop teasing Mana-chan. Just as Miss Donut was about to burst into tears, a somewhat hopeless voice suddenly sounded behind them. Ika. Like a wrong child finally seeing her mother, Mana directly threw herself into Ika's arms. Woo-wah-woo, he bullied me. Ika, you have to stand up for me. Look how wrong the child is. Alright, Mana. Ika, who had been watching the whole time from behind, couldn't help but sigh softly and rub her temples. Weren't you the one who was badmouthing the boss first? As she spoke, she turned her gaze to him. Sorry boss, Mana might have some misunderstandings about you. She didn't mean it. After speaking, Ika lowered her head and said to the girl in her arms, Mana, aren't you going to apologize to the boss? Huh, who's apologizing? Me? Hearing her partner and friend's words, Miss Donut showed a dazed expression, pointing at herself in confusion. After getting an affirmative reply, the girl's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Wait, Ika, why are you siding with an outsider? In just 2 days, has her friend already been molded into someone else's shape? Miss Donut found this fact a bit hard to accept. He seemed to have said just now that he poached Ika because he coveted her body and beauty. Could it be that in these 2 days, Ika has already been? In less than a second, Miss Donut's mind had already imagined several episodes of an X-rated anime. I heard from Miyamori-san that their boss is very good with girls. It's normal for a pure girl like Ika not to be able to resist. I'm sorry, Ika, I didn't expect you to have suffered so much. I came too late. Mana? Ika felt her partner's gaze suddenly become a bit strange, making her feel uncomfortable all over. I understand. Miss Donut suppressed her temper. Ika has suffered so much, what's this little grievance of hers? Don't worry, Ika, no matter what you become, I won't despise you. No matter what, you're still my best partner. Even if you've already been molded into someone else's shape, I will still protect you. I'm sorry boss, I shouldn't have badmouthed you. The girl apologized with a wronged expression, but her eyes couldn't help but become determined. If even she ran away, who else could protect Ika? And looking at Ms. Donut's familiar, resolute eyes, Kamiju Matsumi couldn't help but feel a slight jolt in his heart. It seems I'll have to go to a shrine to find a few shrine maidens these few days. This is a haunting by Soyo. Kids will be kids, I understand. He naturally wouldn't fuss over such a small matter. It was enough to just scare the child a little. Who's a child? His words made Mana grit her teeth again, but she quickly suppressed her emotions. For Ika, I must endure. Seeing that he wasn't going to pursue the matter with Mana, Ika also breathed a sigh of relief. She naturally hadn't been molded into his shape as someone thought. After all, he wasn't a succubus like Tamari, and besides, the two of them had barely interacted these past few days. However, Ika was indeed very satisfied with him as a boss. The contract at Bun Entertainment was much more lenient than her previous companies. This wasn't just top tier in the industry, it was beyond the industry. The terms of the contract were so generous that she even suspected he had some intentions towards her. However, in reality, let alone any ambiguous hints, he hadn't even came to see her after signing the contract. Plus, according to the information she received, teacher Sakiko and the others would be signing similar contracts later, so the girl was completely at ease. After all, he couldn't have intentions for everyone, right? Therefore, a good boss like this was hard to find. Ika naturally didn't want Mana to have any conflicts with him, that would just be asking for trouble. Moreover, it was indeed her friend who had badmouthed him first. Kamiju, why didn't you came to pick us up today? You even had little Matsumi do it. You're too insincere. At this moment, The 5 girls of the MyGO band finally arrived at the company. Before they were even seen, Anon's complaints could be heard. And these two are. However, when she saw Ecchi and Mana next to him, her expression changed. As everyone knows, Miss Anon is a fan of Sumami. The first time she took Tamori to karaoke, the song she wanted to sing was a Sumami song. The girl didn't expect to see the two of them in person at the company. A living Chai Anon. However, before she could run up to ask for an autograph, Mana couldn't help but cry out. Since she had just joined the company, she naturally didn't know about their existence. Seeing an anime character appear in front of her at this moment, the girl couldn't help but widen her eyes. Ecchi, did we transmigrate? Miss Donut felt she was having trouble distinguishing between fantasy and reality. By the way, no wonder he was so scary, so he's a demon king from another world? What are you thinking, Mana? Hearing her friend's words, a somewhat helpless smile appeared on Ecchi's face. Most people would guess they were the real-life prototypes of the anime characters, right? It can only be you, Mana. Afterwards, she naturally explained their existence to her partner. Anon-chan, I really love you. Miss Donut's emotions always came and went quickly. At least at this moment, she was immersed in the excitement of meeting her favorite anime character in person. Can you give me an autograph? Chapter 82 Title, Soyo, So I'm the Only One Who Can't? Voice actor, real-life prototype. None of that mattered. All she knew was that she had met the living Chai Anon. Well. Compared to Mana, Anon's feelings were a bit more complex. She never expected to be asked for an autograph by her own idol. Since MyGO started airing, her popularity had been constantly growing. Her fame was so high that it could only be compared to the Sumami she had previously admired. Compared? Perhaps Chai Anon's popularity had already far surpassed her former idols. Ahem, calm down, can't get too arrogant. Is it okay if I sign here? Anon cleared her throat twice, suppressing the excited blush on her face. Yes, but Anon-chan, can we take a picture together? Of course, Mana-chan, can you sign an autograph for me too? Anon-chan likes Sumami? Mana is so happy. Mana's mood at this moment was probably similar to Anon's before. After all, how would you feel if your favorite anime character jumped out of the anime and asked for your autograph? But speaking of which, it seemed that in the anime, Anon's character was a fan of Mana-chan, right? Then, the remaining people watched as the two girls showered each other with affection, signed autographs for each other, and took pictures together. What a pair of mutual idols. Well, as long as they were happy. Unlike her partner, Ecchi seemed to have no major emotional fluctuations. After all, while MyGO was objectively an excellent work, most of the reason she watched it was because of teacher Sakiko. She hadn't expected when she changed jobs that MyGO would be a work under his company. No wonder she thought Bon animation sounded familiar back then. However, why isn't Sakiko-chan here yet? Not seeing Sakiko, Ecchi subconsciously focused her gaze on Tamori, her eyes deep. In the anime, this was the girl with the deepest relationship with Sakiko. Facing Ecchi's gaze, Tamori seemed a bit uncomfortable. Reiki, seeing this, quickly shielded her. What are you looking at? What's wrong with me looking at you? Luckily, Ecchi didn't reply like that, otherwise the two would definitely have started a fight. The blonde girl seemed to realize her stare was a bit impolite and averted her gaze. Sorry, I'm late. At this moment, teacher Sakiko finally arrived late. Well, at least she wasn't drenched in rain this time. Saki-chan. X2 seeing her, two girls couldn't help but call out her name at the same time. One was the newcomer Ecchi, and the other was naturally Soyo. Ecchi had watched the anime and knew about teacher Soyo's obsession with her childhood friend. On the contrary, it was Soyo who looked at Ecchi with surprise and vigilance. Ecchi? Teacher Sakiko treated Soyo with her usual indifference. After all, just seeing her would make her remember the feeling of having her shoes and stockings taken off. As for Ecchi, she only had the surprise and joy of reuniting with an old friend. Why are you here? Your band. Ecchi was doing so well in Sumami, why would she be here? Don't tell me Sumami disbanded too? Mana? I was poached by the boss. Looking at the girl she had been longing for, Ecchi suppressed her excitement. I didn't expect you to be working here too, Sakiko. What a coincidence. Yeah, what a coincidence. Is it really a coincidence? Teacher Sakiko glanced at a certain young man without leaving a trace and continued to chat with her old friend. It's been over a year since we last saw each other, right? I'm really happy to see you. Me too. Every time I saw your messages, it gave me courage. I still remember what you sent me when I debuted. You still remember that? The two long-lost friends chatted as if no one else was around. Mana, who had just finished getting an autograph and photo from Anon, turned around to find her home had been stolen. Who was this person? Why does Ika look happier with her than with me? Looking at the smile on Ika's face, Miss Donut couldn't help but feel a little sour. Kamiju Matsumi was one thing, his skills were too good. But what's with this blue-haired girl? And compared to Ms. Mana, another girl's expression was even uglier. She had already gotten used to teacher Sakiko's rejection, if not for the contrast with Ika. Why is she so cold only to me? Kamiju Matsumi is fine, little Matsumi is fine, Tamari is fine, this blonde girl named Ika is fine. Why is it only not okay for me? What did I do wrong to make Sakiko treat me like this? Matsumi Togo saw Soyo's expression and wanted to comfort her, but was directly ignored by the emotional Soyo. However, Kamiju Matsumi didn't indulge her, directly hitting her on the head with Matsumi Togo's cucumber. What are you doing? Soyo, who was already in a bad mood, instantly saw red. I think this thing suits you. Want to try it? Looking at the green cucumber in his hand, Soyo felt an inexplicable sense of mockery. No. She resisted the urge to hit him and said in a low voice. He didn't care, directly breaking the cucumber in half and sharing it with Matsumi Togo. Ika, let's talk later. Teacher Sakiko also noticed that she had been talking with her friend for a bit too long. Let's finish work first. Sorry. Ika clearly realized this too, but she always had a hard time controlling herself when it came to teacher Sakiko. It's been a long time since I saw Sakiko, I got a little excited. Afterwards, it was naturally the voice acting session. There wasn't much to say, except that Anon, who was originally having a lot of fun, couldn't have fun anymore after reading her script. Actually, I studied abroad before, my life is always about running away, but I'm done now, no matter how the lines were shuffled or how many distractions were added, some things couldn't be changed. Coupled with the broken English mixed in with the Japanese that gave her PTSD, even if Anon couldn't guess the plot of the anime, she could tell that her identity as a London deserter could no longer be hidden. She had been so happy these past few days, thinking she was about to forget, but the past had caught up with her again. Anon knew that unlike the light-hearted hints before, after this anime aired, everything would be irreversible. She had been proud of the popularity the anime brought her, but only now did she realize that all gifts from fate have a price tag secretly attached. And now, it was time for Chai Anon to pay the price. Kamiju. The girl, holding the script, found him. Let's talk alone. Chapter 83 title, Bearing a Life, but it's Anon. What's your problem? As soon as the two of them walked into the small room next to the recording studio, Anon began to complain without reservation. You should know my past, why did you write these lines for me? It was precisely to cover up the fact that she was a London deserter that she had cut off contact with her past friends and come to Hanyoka. This was a dark history she couldn't let go of, a past she didn't want to face. It was a good thing that the current Kamiju Matsumi had a considerable initial favorability with the girl. Otherwise, her attitude would definitely not be so gentle right now. Probably because I thought it was. Interesting? Do you think I really wouldn't dare to hit you? Hearing the young man's insincere reply, Anon's face instantly darkened. Although she had given a certain Miss Ricky the evaluation of being annoying, she had to admit that her methods were indeed quite effective at times. This land may have experienced countless darknesses, but the surrounding stars are already brighter than you think. Faced with the girl's fist threat, Kamiju Matsumi finally began to explain seriously. No one would think that a sun that has been shrouded in shadows is not dazzling enough. Speak human. Miss Anon was a little impatient. Since you're already unhappy, why not broadcast it and make everyone happy? Are you really asking for a beating? The original exchange almost turned into a physical conflict. You guy. After the scuffle, the girl crossed her arms, somewhat unwilling. You're just making fun of us, aren't you? Anon said the complaint that had been buried in her heart for a long time. Does filming that anime really make you that happy? Happy. An instant reply. So there's no room for discussion? The girl sighed softly, seeming a little tired. There is. What? The young man's reply was completely unexpected. What do you mean, there is? If you really don't want to. Kamiju Matsumi said. We can delay the filming. But you're still going to film it, aren't you? Anon's face immediately fell into a pout. If I'm too lenient with you, it wouldn't be fair to the others. And now you're suddenly talking about fairness? The girl retorted, but another thought arose in her heart. Was this all she was to him? Couldn't she occupy a special enough position in his heart to be treated with leniency? Such a thought was fleeting, and even the girl herself didn't notice it. The best way to overcome fear is to face it. Go for it, Anon-chan. Even if you say that. If you're really that reluctant. Seeing the girl's negative reaction, Kamiju Matsumi's tone also changed. Actually, I'm not that reluctant. Seeing this, Anon, who had been very resistant to it before, changed her attitude. You're right, running away is not a solution. Now that I think about it, the me from back then was so stupid. The girl seemed to be reminiscing, and also sighing. It's actually good that it's revealed. Anon seemed to want to act as carefree as possible, but what she showed was a completely defeated look. But, I might not be that strong. If I get laughed at for it, I might run away again. My life is always about running away. The line he gave her was not wrong at all. Before the candy coating is peeled off, who knows if the candy inside is sweet or bitter? You're right, so I didn't want to eat it in the first place. Miss Anon expressed that as long as she was defeated enough, nothing could hurt her. Eat it? No way. I really like my life now. After the light-hearted banter, the girl finally showed her true emotions. So, if I want to run away, can you catch me? Can you bear my life? Anon looked at the young man, as if wanting to draw courage from him, the courage to face the past. Wait, I didn't even kneel, how did I trigger the line? And why are you saying Teacher Sakiko's line, Anon? How about you lose some weight? Looking at the girl in front of him, Kamiju Matsumi replied tentatively. With my physical condition, I can't carry anything too heavy. Be serious at a time like this. The atmosphere she had worked so hard to create was completely gone. To think she had expected something from this guy, what a fool she was. Anon felt her girlish heart had been fed to a cat. But if you want to run away, Anon, you probably can't. And now you can catch me? Anon crossed her arms and said with a bit of annoyance. No, I'll lock you in the basement. A bright smile appeared on the young man's face, like a sunny boy. A yandere boy is not cute at all. And that's a completely criminal statement, you know. Anon admitted she was a little scared. You guy. Anon couldn't help but sigh softly, but her eyes unconsciously became gentle. I'm really no match for you. Give it to me. The girl held out her hand. What? My lines, the complete version. The girl said. Even if I'm going to die, I should know how I die, right? Then, the girl received the script without any interference, in the correct order. The chaotic script before was indeed intentional. Actually, I studied abroad before. This time, Kamiju Matsumi was very generous, giving her the entire script for the 5th episode. But Anon didn't read it carefully, only using the parts she needed. But, I couldn't keep up at all. After actually saying it out loud, Anon found it wasn't so hard to accept. So I ran back. My life is always about running away. I thought about starting over. But I'm done now. The girl recited the lines, her eyes never leaving him, as if she was eager for some kind of reply from him. Yeah, right? I'll give you a face full. The girl was so angry she laughed. But it was indeed the familiar taste, this shameless scumbag. After finishing the recording, Anon and Kamiju Matsumi left the small room together. Perhaps because the two of them didn't usually have any close contact, the other girls didn't have any ambiguous thoughts about them being alone. However, Anon couldn't help but glance at Matsumi Togo, feeling a little guilty. After all, she had just asked someone else's fiancé, can you bear my life? A question like that. Now that she thought about it, wasn't that like a confession? No, it's not a confession. He's going to make her dark history into an anime for the world to see for free. It's only natural for him to be responsible for it, right? How could she have feelings for this scummy player? What a joke. She has no other thoughts, that's all. Chapter 84 Title, Soyo, You're Not Allowed to Talk About Her. As Anon averted her gaze, Matsumi Togo turned her head. Speaking of which, what did Anon want with Kamiju Matsumi? They seem to have been in that room for a long time. What am I thinking? Matsumi Togo quickly swept these messy thoughts from her mind. Her fiancé might not be a paragon of virtue, but her friend Chai Anon was pure and innocent. How could she possibly have any ideas about him? It must be her imagination. After Anon finished recording her lines, the other girls were pretty much done as well, except for a certain Miss Soyo, whose trembling hands and aching heart might have slightly delayed the process. However, even though they had finished voice acting, they would have to wait a few days to see the finished product. Ms. Anon, for one, hoped to wait a little longer. Although she had been nonchalant during the recording, thinking back on it now made her a bit anxious. After all, how could a psychological shadow that had lingered for so long be easily ignored? But time doesn't stop for anyone's will, and soon it was time for the anime to air. Just like last time, everyone gathered at Kamiju Matsumi's house for a group activity. However, the newcomers were a bit puzzled by the familiar-looking mansion. If they remembered correctly, wasn't this Teacher Sakiko's house in the anime? How did it end up in his hands? Teacher Ami didn't seem to care much, but Hiko looked at her friend with a somewhat subtle gaze. Did something happen to Sakiko's family? Combining this with the plot of the anime, Hiko had actually guessed Teacher Sakiko's current situation. However, the truly high-EQ Miss Icon naturally wouldn't voice a guess that might hurt her friend. Sakiko-chan, isn't his your house? Unfortunately, not everyone was a Kamisato. Compared to her partner, Miss Donut was a bit more blunt. The smile on teacher Sakiko's face stiffened. It was one thing for this to happen once, but did they have to keep bringing it up? If you don't know what to say, then don't say anything. She probably just didn't like it. Kamiju Matsumi replied on Sakiko's behalf. Teacher Sakiko, yeah, right, I didn't like it. Eh? Why? However, before Miss Donut could finish her sentence, Ika pulled her back. Please, just stop talking. It had to be said, teacher Sakiko's former villa was indeed huge. Even with him and 10 girls, it didn't feel crowded, in fact, it was still a bit spacious. And this time, he didn't play it directly through Fuji TV like last time, but instead chose to screen mirror from his computer. What are you doing? Anon curiously poked her head over. Nikoneko? The girl read the text on the computer screen aloud. A video website. He looked at the girl with a strange smile. I think it will be more interesting for everyone to watch it this way. That's right, this world also had Nikoneko. However, perhaps due to the world being different, it hadn't developed very well. Since he was going to make anime, he had acquired the website on a whim. It didn't cost much. After all, with his memories from his past life, he knew the power of such video websites. If managed well, it could greatly increase the popularity of an anime. And the anime produced by One Animation would naturally be broadcast on their own video website. However, for the sake of viewership ratings, it would be more than half an hour later than the TV broadcast. This was also why he had picked up the girls later than before. Oh. Anon's reaction was lukewarm. As a popular girl, she had never been very interested in this sort of thing. But when the anime actually started playing, she couldn't help but feel nervous. He, on the other hand, said it was still early. The scene she was worried about wouldn't be until the next episode. Anime scene, you actually really want to form a band, don't you? Because the third episode was Tamari's flashback, the plot of the fourth episode actually followed directly from the second. The anime began with Anon's words to Tamari. Anime scene, why do you ask? Tamari seemed surprised by her words. Haruokage is a really good song. Anon, feeling she had some understanding of the girl's past, began her therapy session. I should say it's very moving. I can't really explain it. It just felt a bit powerful. Being in a band is a very happy and joyful thing. On-screen comment, MyGO is finally updated. On-screen comment, I was about to die these past few days without MyGO. On-screen comment, it seems like it's a double episode this time too. Awesome. On-screen comment, Anon is so cute. On-screen comment, Tamori-san in the anime is also incredibly cute. However, more than the plot of the show itself, what attracted the girls' attention at this moment were the scrolling comments. Although most of them were popular girls like Anon and weren't very familiar with the half-dead Nikoneko of this world, they definitely knew what scrolling comments were. But since this was an anime they themselves starred in, seeing the comments naturally made them feel a bit strange. Especially Anon, she had gotten used to the admiration of her classmates at school these past few days, but seeing people go crazy in the comments still made her feel a bit embarrassed, especially in front of so many acquaintances. On the other hand, the dazed and cute Tamari didn't feel anything. Perhaps those crazy comments were judged as useless information by the single-threaded girl and filtered out directly. And watching the comments, Kamiju Matsumi finally felt comfortable. Watching anime with the band girls before, it always felt like something was missing without the comments. Anime scene, it's all my fault. In the anime's plot, Anon's therapy was having an effect. I'm the reason Krychik disbanded. I don't think it was your fault, Tamari. Seeing the withdrawn Tamari, Anon began her offensive. The one at fault is the girl who suddenly quit, right? She didn't even tell you the reason. That's too selfish. That's why you guys were so hurt. As the target of the criticism, teacher Sakiko had no intention of refuting it, instead feeling a bit guilty. After all, it was her pride and willfulness that had hurt Tamori and everyone else. However, someone didn't think so. Anime scene, it's not Shoko's fault. Hearing someone blame teacher Sakiko, Soyo, sniffing out the drama, appeared. This wasn't anyone's fault. On-screen comment, Soyo appeared, and the first thing she does is defend Sakiko. On-screen comment, as soon as Sakiko is mentioned, Soyo immediately appears. On-screen comment, Soyo-san has entered the chat. On-screen comment, Soyo-san still likes Sakiko so much. On-screen comment, are they finally forming a new band? Soyo seemed to have some magical power. With her appearance, the number of comments surged. Chapter 85 title, An Untainted, Sincere Heart. Seeing the animated Soyo defending her so fiercely, and even being teased by the comments, teacher Sakiko honestly felt a bit strange. But when she remembered the girl's incessant pestering and the memory of her shoes and stockings being taken off, her originally softened heart immediately became firm. She couldn't afford Soyo's affection. So what part of her does Soyo even like? Can't she just change it? Meanwhile, Soyo was not affected by the content of the comments. Instead, she suddenly felt that this anime wasn't so bad. As long as Sakiko could realize her untainted, sincere heart, she would definitely have a change of heart. Anime scene, long time no see. In the anime, Soyo also sat down next to Tamari. Here, you drink mocha, right? Even as a fake mother figure, Soyo had clearly paid attention to her teammates' preferences. If it wasn't anyone's fault. However, Soyo's forced logic to defend teacher Sakiko obviously couldn't convince Tamari. Then why did the band break up? Tamari. In the end, Soyo could only stare blankly at Tamari's retreating back. The prelude ended, and next was the opening song. MyGO's songs might not be masterpieces, but they were basically high-quality band songs. Paired with the cute girls singing in the opening, it was undeniably a treat. At least, few of the viewers watching the anime at this moment wanted to skip the op. Only Soyo found the animated version of herself a bit displeasing. Why are you jumping so happily? And smiling. Anime scene, thank you. The op ended, and the scene returned to the beginning, but with Soyo instead of Tamari. Anon was surprised by Soyo's thanks. Thanks to your help. Soyo began to explain why she was thanking her. I was able to talk to Tamari again. Tamari said it was her fault the band broke up. Really, why would she think that? Soyo began to complain, and the topic unconsciously shifted back to teacher Sakiko. What is everyone thinking? Shoko disappeared after that. I don't know where she is. Anon showed a surprised expression. Is that the keyboardist? Watching Anon's lines in the anime, a bad premonition arose in teacher Sakiko's heart, and the next second, this premonition became a reality. Anime scene, she's at our school now. As soon as Anon finished speaking, Soyo's eyes widened as she looked at the pink-haired girl. Anon seemed a bit startled by Soyo's unexpected reaction. I see. The anime ended with a close-up of the mocha in Soyo's hand. At Hanyoka, damn it, Pinky, you're doxing me? Watching the thoughtful look on the animated Soyo's face, teacher Sakiko subconsciously looked at Anon. But thinking that her current school had already been exposed in the previous anime, she withdrew her gaze. But, even without Kamiju Matsumi, without the anime, would Soyo have found out about her from Anon anyway? It was clear that for this overly realistic and special anime, the girls all had their suspicions. And on the side, Anon, feeling teacher Sakiko's gaze, strangely touched her head. Why did Sakiko suddenly look at me? Anime scene, after Anon and Soyo's conversation ended, the camera cut to the next day, showing a shot of Anon on the train, looking at Krychik's old page. Then it jumped to Hanyoka, where the cute Tamari was sitting and polishing a rock. After Anon walked in, they greeted each other, and the scene quickly switched to after school. Tamari. Tamari picked up her bag and walked out of the classroom first. Anon, seeing this, quickly tried to follow. Anon-san. However, just as Anon went down the stairs, she was stopped by teacher Sakiko. At this moment, Sakiko was holding her bag, a gentle smile on her face, looking somewhat like her White Knight Sakiko era. Did you find your band members? Yeah. However, Anon's answer was completely unexpected. One is named Soyo Nagasaki, and Soyo Nagasaki? Teacher Sakiko never expected to hear Soyo's name in this situation. Her face immediately darkened, and she subconsciously hugged her bag tighter. Sakiko before hearing Soyo, Sakiko after hearing Soyo, Teacher Sakiko's sudden change in attitude surprised Anon. I see. Teacher Sakiko seemed to have no interest in continuing the conversation and turned to leave. On-screen comment, she looks so disgusted, and teacher Sakiko's overly obvious change in attitude clearly stimulated the comments. On-screen comment, does Sakiko hate Soyo that much? On-screen comment, I feel a little sorry for Soyo. On-screen comment, is it because Soyo is a bit too clingy? In fact, without even looking at the comments, the real-life Soyo was already on the verge of breaking down. Sakiko's change in attitude was too obvious. Why was she so gentle with a pink-haired girl she had just met, but so annoyed with her? Why did she try everything to get Sakiko to have a change of heart, only to receive an attitude worse than that given to a stranger? Where did things go wrong? On-screen comment, maybe Sakiko is angry because Soyo, her former teammate, formed a band with someone else? On-screen comment, a perspective I never considered, Saki-chan. Seeing this comment, the originally downcast Soyo's eyes instantly lit up. Could it be, as this comment said, that Sakiko was only annoyed with her on the surface, but actually cared about her a lot? Was the change in attitude in the anime not because she hated her, but because she was angry that she had formed a band with another girl? She cares about me. Who you form a band with has nothing to do with me. Seeing that Soyo was about to say something, Teacher Sakiko directly interrupted her delusion. Soyo fell back into her withdrawn state. On-screen comment, speaking of which, isn't it all Sakiko's fault? Krychik disbanded because of her, and at this time, the discussion in the comments continued. On-screen comment, there's no need to blame Sakiko-chan, right? Maybe she had her reasons. On-screen comment, what reasons? On-screen comment, maybe something happened to her family? On-screen comment, that's too realistic, a bit heavy for a band anime. On-screen comment, maybe Sakiko-chan felt that something else was more suitable for her than a band? On-screen comment, like flower arrangement? On-screen comment, why flower arrangement? But now that you mention it, I can totally picture it. Chapter 86 title, Soyo. Stop with the cutesy voice. And because of that, she didn't notice the blonde girl who had been secretly observing her the whole time. Sakiko, she really? Anime scene. After that was the scene where Anon goes to the astronomy club to flirt with Tamari. Aside from making the real-life Ricky look annoyed, there wasn't much to say. Then the camera cut back to Teacher Sakiko, playing the piano in the concert band room. The glow of the setting sun shone on her, looking like a beautiful oil painting. However, the girl playing Moonlight Sonata didn't look very happy. She closed her eyes, and the scene of her quitting Krychik appeared in her mind. Opening her eyes, her expression seemed to overlap with the self in her memory. Although she wasn't crying, you could feel an inexplicable sadness. It was clear that her actions back then had not only hurt Tamori and the others, but also herself. With the appearance of this scene, the comments blaming her on the screen basically disappeared. Even Ricky, the only one in the original Krychik who had a problem with her, felt a bit complicated. As for a certain Miss Soyo, needless to say, the negative emotions she originally had towards Teacher Sakiko were instantly swept away. She has me in her memories. She looks so sad, how can I blame her? It must be because I was too clingy. But if not for that, how else could she get Sakiko to have a change of heart? Soyo fell into thought. Anime scene, the scene changed, and Teacher Sakiko had finished playing the piano. It's a student from Tsukunomori. Haven't students from there come before? The whispers of the surrounding students seemed to foreshadow what was about to happen. However, the girl was still immersed in her own emotions and didn't notice. It wasn't until a certain girl appeared before her that her eyes widened. Long time no see. It was undeniable that at this moment, Soyo's smile was very beautiful. You're too impatient. Seeing the animated Soyo go to Hanioka to wait for Teacher Sakiko right after getting the information from her, Anon couldn't help but complain. Even though she already had some understanding of Soyo's obsession with Teacher Sakiko, she still couldn't completely get used to it. I just wanted to see Saki-chan sooner. Soyo put on her usual mask in response. Because I had something I wanted to say to her. That's just how Soyo is. But a certain young man's words immediately cracked her mask. I've diagnosed it as a result of long-term vegetarianism. What are you talking about, Kamaja-kun? I don't understand. Soyo forced a smile. Soyo, stop with the cutesy voice, you're giving me a headache. Do you want me to treat it for you? Soyo clenched her fist, her face turning dark. Anime scene, in the anime, Soyo, who had finally caught Teacher Sakiko, seemed to have a lot to say. However, Sakiko had no intention of paying attention to her, so she could only chase after her while talking. Please, I want to talk to you. I have nothing to talk to you about. Teacher Sakiko's attitude was very clear. I've been looking for you. Soyo seemed to completely ignore this, or rather, she chose to ignore it. Why did you transfer schools? Sakiko stopped. Is it because of Krychik? It has nothing to do with that. Teacher Sakiko denied her guess. Please, don't have anything to do with me anymore. And so, the first conversation between the two after Krychik's disbandment in the anime ended so briefly, and Soyo wasn't actually surprised by the plot in the anime. After all, she had already become very clear about Teacher Sakiko's attitude towards her during this period. However, Soyo's question in the anime also aroused her curiosity. Shoko, why did you transfer schools? Soyo's tone was as gentle as possible, but perhaps due to a certain scumbag's influence, after asking, she subconsciously made a guess. Is it because you don't like Tsukunomori? Teacher Sakiko? Why don't you go to Tsukunomori? Is it because you don't like it? What do you think? At this moment, in Sakiko's eyes, Soyo seemed to overlap with the man next to her. Alright, so this is what you've learned after all this time? Does that have anything to do with you? Saki-chan. Soyo, seeing Sakiko's dark face, also realized she had said the wrong thing, her expression becoming a bit flustered. The Soyo spirit possesses others every day. I never thought I'd be the one getting possessed one day. Anime scene. The camera cut to the anime. After teacher Sakiko left, Soyo also received a message from Anon inviting her to Ring. As soon as she arrived at Ring, she saw Tamari sitting there. And Ricky, who was working, was also pulled out by Anon. It was clear that Saint Anon was about to start her offensive. Alright, let's communicate. Anon clapped her hands, and this cute appearance clearly moved many people. On-screen comment. Alright, rational analysis. On-screen comment. Anon is cute. On-screen comment. Isn't this alright a bit too cute? On-screen comment. How can Anon-san be so cute? Am I that cute? It's not that exaggerated. Looking at the barrage of comments praising her cuteness on the screen, Anon tried her best to remain humble, but she couldn't suppress the smile on her face. Anime scene. Soyo-san, please sit down too. Please wait a moment. Due to the suddenness of the situation, the animated Soyo also needed some time to analyze the current situation. Let me reorganize my thoughts. Was it Anon who brought Tamari here? Everyone, it's better if we all communicate properly. Soyo looked at the three girls present, finally figured out the current situation, and then instantly came up with a plan. Astounding wisdom, activate. Is that so? Thank you. A smiling mask covered the girl's face. And thank you too, Tamari, for being willing to come. On-screen comment. Something feels a bit off about that last shot. Due to the close-up in the anime, some viewers noticed something was wrong. On-screen comment. That smile was indeed a bit. On-screen comment. Soyo-san is so gentle. On-screen comment. Are they finally forming a new band? Anon also felt that the shot was a bit strange, but out of trust for her teammate, she didn't think too much about it. Anime scene. Did you get home safely yesterday? Soyo first showed off her considerate side. Tamori nodded gently in response to the question. I see, that's good. You asked yesterday why Crychick disbanded, right? The camera slowly moved down, showing a shot of Soyo fiddling with her fingers. After that, because Tamari didn't came to practice either, it became harder and harder for everyone to get together.